Was having a happy hump day to you and yours. Thanks for joining me as always. It is much appreciated. We're going to dig into Drake Maye today, what he's done so far coming off of his best NFL game against the Rams on Sunday. I really want to put things into perspective about Maye's season to this point, what he's doing as a rookie compared to some of the other rookies. We've got numbers, we've got opinions, all sorts of stuff involving Drake Maye coming up in just a couple of minutes. But first, some news. Cole Strange back on the practice field today for the Patriots. That is obviously good news. The 21-day window begins for Cole Strange. No clear idea as to when he's actually going to be out there playing games that count. But getting him back on the practice field is the first step. It's a big first step. So Cole Strange back at practice. Another note today about the practice. The Patriots decided to not have pads on, which is a change to the approach. The usual approach has been the Patriots with pads on for that Wednesday practice. This week, not so much. You do wonder if it has to do with they've played so much football without having a bye week. You wonder if it has to do with having to play down in Miami this weekend with the humidity, the heat. Do they want to try to conserve as much energy and physicality as possible? But there was a change at practice today. No pads on. That is different than what we've seen before. All right. Let's get into Drake Maye, who has exposed some pundits. Now, I want to go back to the beginning with my Drake Maye take. My Drake Maye pre-draft take was pretty simple. It was he's going to play when he's ready to play. If it takes a year for Maye to play, then cool. If the Patriots coaching staff, the organization believes he needs a full year to fully develop, get his feet on the ground, then you do what's best for the football player. I also mentioned time and time again that nobody knows. Everybody tries to guess with this kind of stuff, right? But every player develops differently. A player can develop immediately. They hit the field, they get better week after week, they learn fast, they understand the film, and those players develop quickly. Other players take their time. They're late bloomers. Sometimes it takes a year. Sometimes it takes 2 years to really speed up and get to the idea of what the NFL is, what they're seeing, how they have to react, and what they can do against what they're seeing. Everybody's development differs. Everybody. And that's not just football and pro sports. It's everything in life. You just can't make people one single monolith. You have no idea how one certain individual is going to take to the test versus how another individual is going to take to that test. Everybody develops differently. So I was not sitting here telling you that Drake Maye absolutely, no doubt, surefire needed a year or 2 years. I also wasn't telling you throw him out there week one because I don't personally know Drake Maye. And I did not know how he was going to develop. So I was leaving the door open because I truly believe that you don't limit somebody's ceiling. You don't limit their ceiling. You don't say, oh, he can't do that. He can't do this, especially when he's younger. He's 22 years old right now. You have no idea what's going to happen. He could develop rapidly, be well ahead of the curve, or he might take some time and actually stick with that 1 or 2 year plan. So everybody develops differently. I wanted to make sure that the young man was ready before he hit the field. I also, before the draft and as we got ready to talk about these quarterbacks at the time, I said he could be hindered by UNC. He had one good receiver in his final year at North Carolina. That was Tez Walker. Tez Walker did not play until October because of the NCAA eligibility rules. So he had one good receiver. He didn't have that receiver for the first month or so of the season. And yes, he had a very good back, but he also changed offensive coordinators. How much change was there? What were they asking from Maye with the new OC versus the old OC? So there were a lot of questions about North Carolina and how much that hindered his development, how much that got in the way of the growth on the field. And the other thing that you have to think about with every rookie, and this goes with basketball, goes with baseball, it goes with, football. If they're going from college to the minor leagues or college to the pros, you have to remember that now their number one priority is that sport. Maye could not pour 24/7, 365 into football because he was also a college student. Now, was he taking high-level physics courses? Probably not. but he could not prioritize football number one above everything else. He could not devote his life to football. And once you get drafted, once you get that contract, you are now completely devoted to the life. You are completely devoted to the sport. If you want to be, you can end up being Jamarcus Russell and show no devotion, take that contract and move on with your life. Or people like Drake Maye, apparently, they get that contract, they get in the film room, they love what they do. They are totally dedicated in improving, in developing. And so they spend almost every single second that they can spend on what their career is now. That's a completely different situation than in college. So all of those factors, I was not comfortable telling you, oh, Drake Maye's not going to play in 2024. He's going to suffer early on. You got to wait until 2026. All I said about Maye and the time frame was make sure he's ready when he's out there. Could be 6 weeks, could be 12 weeks, could be week 1, could be 2025. But the most important thing, and this remains the case, the most important thing about Drake Maye is whether or not he's going to be that franchise quarterback for you in 25, 26, 27. Now, some pundits out there said that Drake Maye regressed in 2023. He took a step back at North Carolina. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the country in 2022. He took that step back in 2023, and there was some concern by some pundits that that regression was because of Drake Maye. And some pundits said he needs at least a year, if not longer. I heard a lot of people say, he's going to need at least a year. He's going to need at least 2 years. You got to look at the footwork. I specifically remember doing a podcast several months ago before the draft. I don't know how many of you were watching this or listening to this at the time. And for all of those who have jumped on board, I appreciate you. All of those that have been here since day one, the OGs, I appreciate you as well. But I remember doing a podcast months and months ago before we get into the draft, right? And that podcast that I did had to do with a column that was written in The Athletic. And at the time, whoever wrote it, I don't remember who it was, but at the time they said, they spoke to all of these different quarterbacks coaches across the country, not the guys that are hired by NFL teams, not the guys that are getting checks from NFL teams, but all of these other quarterback coaches. Their number one job is to coach these quarterbacks during the offseason. And I remember going through that Athletic story at the time several months ago. And the idea was that these quarterback coaches said the footwork is not really that big of a deal. You can fix the footwork. You can even fix the throwing motion. You can shorten it over time. And I remember reading that and saying, man, that's a lot different than what some of these talking heads are saying. Because these professionals who work with the quarterbacks during the offseason are telling us in this Athletic story that you can fix the footwork, you can fix the elongated motion, and these things aren't detrimental to somebody's career as long as they're willing to put in the work. So here we are. Some said Maye might never get it. Now, Drake Maye could easily take a step back. Let's all agree on that. He's only started 6 games in his NFL career. He could certainly take a step back from what he's been. The turnover-worthy plays are obviously a concern if they continue to happen into year 1, year 2, year 3. And that could end up being the death knell. If Maye can never figure out the turnover-worthy plays and he becomes way too risky or is too risky and continues to be too risky, that might end up being the death knell, okay? We have to acknowledge that at the beginning, so this doesn't sound like I'm doing nothing but wearing rose-colored glasses telling you that Drake Maye is guaranteed to be a top 5 quarterback in football. It's early. It's early. And we have to acknowledge that. We have to appreciate that before we get into what we've seen and what people are saying. Because what we have seen and what people are saying, man, oh man, does Drake Maye look like a legitimate top 10 quarterback in the league? He'll get there. I'm not saying right now, but he looks like he will be a top 10 quarterback in the league. He looks like he could be top 5 quarterback in the league. He looks like he could be one of the better quarterbacks in football from what we've seen, especially on Sunday. So 6 games in, the 6 starts, so far, Drake Maye has exposed a lot of those pundits. A lot of those pundits that said he wouldn't be ready. A lot of those pundits that said the footwork is way too much of a mess. You'll never be able to get him to figure that stuff out. The pundits that said he's going to take a year or 2 years. 6 games in, those pundits have egg on their face. Maye is well ahead of those opinions. Evan Lazar from Patriots.com wrote this about Drake Maye's performance against the Rams. The most impressive aspect of Maye's film during his rookie season is how quickly he's winning from the pocket. Even someone like this scribe who pounded the table for Maye before the draft didn't think it would happen this fast. In Evan Lazar's grading, Maye had 15-plus plays to only 5 minuses, all while only throwing 2 of his 40 pass attempts over 20 air yards. Lazar writes, long story short, he won by doing the easy things many doubted he could do at this level. Here's what T.C. McCartney said, quarterbacks coach for the Patriots. Here's what he said about Maye's mental capacity last week to the media. Quote, he's a super fast processor. He sees the field really, really well. Even if you watch his first interception from last week, he saw the defender take another route. He ended up being kind of out of rhythm with his footwork and moving and then trying to throw it, but he saw the defender. He just came off of it late. He sees the field well. He processes very quickly. It's definitely a strength of his. McCartney continued and said, part of Maye's strength is his mental bandwidth. He can handle a lot. I don't think it stressed him at all in terms of what we've been doing. He's pretty sharp. Which leads us to Greg Bedard. My buddy Greg, known as the wet blanket, right? Many people think that Greg does nothing but tear the Patriots apart and that he's too harsh on Maye and he's too harsh on quarterbacks. Here's what Greg Bedard wrote about Maye's performance against the Rams on Sunday. To do what Maye did on Sunday against a defense that not only was the league's second best over the previous 4 games, but threw the kitchen sink at him in terms of pressure and coverage was impressive to watch. Maye was in complete command nearly the entire game. He looked like a 10-year veteran calmly dissecting a good Rams defense. This should have been the unequivocal Maye coming out party in a victory. Those are local guys, Nick. Those are local guys. Okay, how about Dan Orlovsky? Dan Orlovsky is a guy who said that Drake Maye would have to take 2 years. The Jordan Love plan. At least 2 years for Drake Maye to sit before he's ready to play in the NFL. That was Dan Orlovsky before the draft. What is Dan Orlovsky saying now? Well, here's what Orlovsky posted the other day. Maye won't win it because his team isn't good enough. But just talking about the play, Maye would absolutely be right in the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation. Orlovsky finishes his post. His tape is flat out awesome. So that is Dan Orlovsky, who thought that Drake Maye was so far behind in some of the fundamentals that it would take him 2 years before he got onto the football field and looked like he knew what he was doing. Now Orlovsky, after watching the film of Drake Maye and what he's done through 6 starts, he only finished 5 of those, of course, because of the concussion against the Jets, but the 6 starts, Orlovsky's looking at the film and he's saying, this dude should be talked about as far as the Rookie of the Year competition. If the Patriots didn't stink, this dude would be right there with everybody else. And Orlovsky went as far as calling Drake Maye's film awesome. There's a Twitter account that I follow, and I'm also on Blue Sky if you do that kind of thing. Computer Cowboy. Computer Cowboy does this great thing where he takes all of the pass blocking statistics, right? And he creates this composite pass protection ranking system. And Computer Cowboy has those pass block grades of offensive linemen in true pass sets only. The Patriots are dead ass last at number 32. Now, Computer Cowboy posted this. He posted the rankings that he has, 1 to 32. And the Patriots are 32nd in the league in pass block grades in true pass sets. True pass sets only. And what Computer Cowboy posted along with this ranking graphic was, quote, this is a Drake Maye tweet. What Drake Maye is doing is actually kind of amazing. That's Computer Cowboy, who just looks at it objectively and analytically and says, what Drake Maye is doing with this offensive line grade that he has right here is actually amazing, well beyond what you could ever imagine. We've got a lot more on Drake Maye. I want to compare him to the other rookie quarterbacks and their situations and some of the numbers to give you an idea, to give you a perspective of what Maye is doing right now. Before I get to that, you can do a couple of things for us here on this podcast that helps us grow the channel. You can click that thumbs up button on the YouTube that you're watching right now. Click that thumbs up. More thumbs, of course, as I say, always means more eyeballs. We want to create engagement. We want to beat up that YouTube algorithm. So click the thumbs up button for us. Throw a comment in. What do you make of Dan Orlovsky going from Drake Maye won't be ready for another 2 years at least to his tape is awesome, he should be in the offensive rookie of the year conversation? What do you make of Greg Wet Blanket Bedard telling us that Drake Maye against the Rams looked like a 10-year veteran in complete control and complete command of the situation? Those comments, those also help us beat the algorithm. So click that thumbs up, throw a comment in, and also subscribe. Trying to hit 5,000 subscribers. We're trying to get there by Thanksgiving. So we've got a week from tomorrow to hit 5,000 subs. We're under 50 away from that number. So like, comment, and subscribe. Doesn't cost you any money. Doesn't cost you a lot of time, but it helps us tremendously. And my friends at Spotify, Apple Pods, don't forget to rate and review. All right, back to the Drake Maye conversation. It's all good and grand to talk about Drake Maye and what he's done and how good he's been so far and how these pundits, some of these pundits have been absolutely, no doubt, exposed by Drake Maye's first 6 starts because they said he wouldn't be ready to start in the NFL for a year or two. And he's already started 6 games and he's looking like offensive rookie of the year material. It's one thing to say that, but it's another thing to look at Drake versus these other rookie quarterbacks. What kind of circumstances? Now, some of these things are easy, right? Like you can look at it and say, well, Jaden Daniels has better weapons. And you look at Chicago with Caleb Williams, he's got better weapons. You can do some of that stuff. But I really want to dig into this deeper, okay? So let's look at those pass protection composite rankings from our friend at Computer Cowboy. I told you that the Patriots are 32nd on that list. The Patriots are 32nd when it comes to the pass protection composite rankings. How do the other offensive lines compare to the Patriots' offensive lines in pass protection composite ranking? Patriots are 32. Washington with Jaden Daniels, 23. So Washington is 9 spots ahead of the Patriots when it comes to pass protection. How about Chicago? We look at Chicago, and Chicago's offensive line has been ripped, right? We talk about Chicago, their O-line giving up sacks and pressures. Well, if you look at the pass protection composite rankings, and this is only true pass sets only, right? Chicago's actually ranked 9th, top 10, which tells you how many sacks and how many of those pressures are on Caleb Williams for holding on to the football forever, which the Patriots mentioned after they beat the Bears a couple weeks ago. You know what Denver's is? A lot of people are talking about Bo Nix. Bo Nix had a good game this past weekend. Now, a couple touchdowns behind the line of scrimmage throws, but Bo Nix putting up some good stats. Looks good this year, right? Denver's pass protection composite ranking is number 1 overall in the league. So when you're looking at the offensive lines for these rookie quarterbacks, you've got Denver at number 1. You've got Chicago at number 9. You've got Washington at number 23. And then you have the Patriots bringing up the rear at number 32. So by far, it's not even close. By far, Drake Maye has the worst offensive line that any of these rookie quarterbacks have had this season. Not close. Let's move on to the next thing. Wide receiver rooms. This one's easy. We can go through it quick. Denver, they have Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton easily better than any receiver the Patriots have on this roster. Chicago, we know what they have. They've got a Dunze. They've got DJ Moore. They've got Keenan Allen. And yes, Keenan Allen mostly looks washed at this point, but he's the 3rd receiver. Chicago has an embarrassment of riches. Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. We talked about it when they played against the Patriots a couple of weeks ago. Washington has at least Terry McLaurin, who's been excellent this year. Compare that to what Drake Maye has. It's not great, right? So not only is Drake Maye dealing with the worst, by far, offensive line and pass protection, when you look at all the rookie quarterbacks, you're also looking at the wide receiver room, and you would say that Maye's wide receiver room is not necessarily close to these other rookie wide receivers because of rookie quarterbacks, because they have a wide receiver one and they have some other weapons. You also have to look at the competition. Who has Drake Maye played? Drake Maye has played some of the top pass rushes and pass defenses in football. He has started 6 games. 3 of those games have been against some of the best pass defenses in football and or pass rushes in football. His first start was against the Texans. The Texans have one of the best pass rushes in football. Very difficult to deal with. D'Amico Ryans does a terrific job. Then we talked about Chicago. Chicago's defense, their weakness is run defense. They had a top 5 pass defense in football, and Drake Maye predictably didn't do great against them. But it was a very tough assignment. That's a legit pass defense. And then he just played against the Rams, who, again, if you look at the analytics over the last 4 weeks, they were one of the best defenses in football. And their pass rush has been one of the best pass rushes in football. So given the competition that Drake Maye has played against, I'm not telling you they've all been tough. Obviously, Jacksonville's defense sucks out loud. But if you look at the Texans, the Bears, the Rams, those are 3 legitimate pass defenses that any quarterback in the league would have some difficulty with. But Maye has still looked as good as he has looked and as ready as he has looked against those teams. How about run game? Now, you're a Patriots fan. You know the Patriots haven't run the football that well. But how about these other teams? How about these other rookie quarterbacks? What kind of run game do they have? Well, there's a stat. There's an analytic that you can look at, and it's called success rate. And it tells you how successful a team is in that category. So run success rate, how successful are they when they run the football compared to not being successful? Are they 35% successful, 40% successful, 60% successful? So usually if you're around 50%, you feel pretty good. When you look at run success percentage, the Patriots, their success rate is 38.6%, okay? So the Patriots run game has a 38.6% success rate. Above them is Denver. And by the way, New England with that success rate is 24th in football. So the run game success rate for New England is 24th in the league. How about the other young quarterbacks? What do they have? Denver's run success rate is 17th in the league. So 7 spots above the Patriots. Chicago, their successful run rate is 16th in the league. They're 1 spot above the Denver Broncos. How about Washington? What if I told you that the Washington Commanders have the top success rate in the NFL when it comes to running the football? If I told you that, I'd be telling you the truth. So when you look at these rookie quarterbacks, Drake Maye's offensive line, by far the worst. His wide receiver weapons, the worst. The run game, oh boy. New England 24th in success rate. Denver 17th. Chicago 16th. Washington 1st. So the run game is by far the worst for Drake Maye. I think you're picking up what I'm putting down at this point, right? We can sit here and we can talk about how Drake Maye's looked individually. We can break down what he's done well, what he still struggles with. We can look at what pundits are writing and all of this and tweeting and what do you call it, blue skying, whatever the hell that is. We can look at all of these pundits and we can look, but you also have to keep it in perspective that what Drake Maye has right now around him is not nearly close to what these other rookie quarterbacks have around them. Whether it's O-line or wide receivers or run game, nothing close. But yet, Drake Maye looks like he's improving almost every single week and just came off of his best start so far. It's only 6 starts. And I'll keep pounding that. It's only 6 starts. But objectively, as we say, that there's no guarantee that Maye will continue to improve and end up being a top 5 quarterback, top 10 quarterback, whatever it is. We can unequivocally say at this point that right now, every single solitary Patriots fan should be thrilled about Drake Maye and what he's done to this point. The idea that he would be playing this well against these defenses, given what he has around him compared to other rookie quarterbacks. If you told me this when he was drafted in April, I would have said, listen, put the sunshine, flowers, and rose-colored glasses down, step away for a little bit here. You might be getting a little bit ahead of yourself. But frankly, Drake Maye has continued to improve, looks the part of a stud, has Sean McVay waxing poetic about him in the postgame on Sunday. Mike McDaniel was talking glowingly about Drake Maye today to the media down in Miami. You've got these pundits saying, yeah, it looks like we were wrong. This dude looks as good as I could ever imagine him looking. He should be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. And I want you to put all of this in perspective, not only his individual play, but the things I've told you so far in the first 26 and a half minutes of this podcast, the surrounding cast of Maye. And I also want you to think about this, that Drake Maye is 22 years old. Drake Maye started almost 30 less games than Jaden Daniels did in his collegiate career. Drake Maye did not have a senior season in high school because of COVID. Drake Maye did not have as much talent surrounding him as every other rookie quarterback had in their final year in college. But we're still here. And at 22 years old, he's putting better film up time and time and time again. If you're not excited about that, then you probably should not watch football anymore. You should embrace the idea that you're just not happy and that you can't be excited about anything regarding this team, and accept that and move on with your life. Because given everything that we've gone through here, given everything that we've just gone through, Drake Maye has exceeded expectations. And in many ways, he has far exceeded expectations. And you do wonder, what would Maye look like with those receivers in Chicago? What would Drake Maye look like with Terry McLaurin or Cortland Sutton? What would Drake Maye look like if he had a run game that was at least in the top 20? What would Maye look like if he didn't have the worst offensive line pass protection and true pass sets only? The worst offensive line pass pro in football this year. What would he look like if you just had slight improvements in those areas? If you just gave him one bona fide stud receiver? If you gave him, I don't know, top 15 to top 20 protection from the offensive line? As I said, a run game that was in the top 15 to 20. What would he look like then if he wasn't being asked to literally carry this offense at 22 years old? I'd say, given all of these things, all of these different aspects, we should all be very happy and impressed by what Drake Maye has done so far. Again, it's not a guarantee that he's going to be great. It's not a guarantee of anything. We're just looking at it right now in a vacuum, November 20th, 2024, 6 starts into his career. He's been really damn good. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to do those 3 things for us. Takes almost no time, doesn't cost you a penny, and it helps us continue to build this brand. If you enjoy what we're doing right now, then make sure you subscribe to us, trying to hit 5,000 subscribers. Subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, Spotify, Apple Pods people, rate and review. And don't forget, Crafts and Kickoffs, my NFL podcast, is tomorrow night on this same channel at 7 p.m. live. Crafts and Kickoffs, the idea is easy. I sit back, I drink a beer, and we talk football. All right, Let's close with some news and notes on the Patriots. So Burt Breer said the Crafts were looking at trying to figure out how to handle Drake Maye the best, right? Well, a lot of people saw that as only an indictment on Alex Van Pelt, which I found interesting because I don't think Burt Breer's report said that the Patriots ownership was looking to replace Van Pelt. The report was that Patriots ownership, they were doing their due diligence to figure out if they were handling Maye the right way. And that could be several things. That could mean that the Patriots are doing due diligence on Elliott Wolf and the job that he has done to this point, and why the Patriots continue to not get productivity from wide receivers that are picked in the top 3 or 4 rounds. That could be part of their work. How about Tyler Hughes, the wide receivers coach? Maybe the Crafts are doing due diligence on the wide receiver position because they see that Jalen Polk, who is, I think, a good football player, looks absolutely lost. Javon Baker can't get on the field. KJ Osborne, who has done a good job in the NFL, he's been an afterthought. Maybe the Crafts are doing due diligence on Tyler Hughes. And hey, give me some wide receiver coach names that could work out better because something's going wrong here. Maybe the Crafts are looking at Gerard Mayo and saying, are we being too conservative as a team? Are we being too conservative for our young quarterback? Could we be a little bit more aggressive with him? So there's a lot of different things that could be said about that Burt Breer report. That's not just, it's about Alex Van Pelt. Secondly, I don't mind the Crafts doing due diligence because they should always be looking and asking on what they can do better, how to make sure they're getting the best out of their young quarterback. That's part of their job, right? Are we doing everything we can as an ownership to get the most out of this young quarterback? Are we supporting him in the right way? They should be asking those questions. I have no issue with it. Now, I have an issue with it coming out and who leaked it and how did this information get out. I have a problem with that because this should not be known publicly that the Crafts are doing this. It should be behind closed doors. We don't need the loud chatter. All right, before I get to some more thoughts, I want to throw up a super chat here from our friend Vitalix, $10 super chat. Thank you, Vitalix, for the 10. Just want to take a second to thank All That Is Holy for just not being the Jets and not having an owner making football decisions. If that article is true, good stuff. Nick, squish the fish. Yeah, so tomorrow night on Crafts and Kickoffs, I'm absolutely going to get in on the Jet story that came out yesterday from Diana Rossini. There are some amazing things written in that story about Woody Johnson and how heavy-handed he's been in the Jets organization, especially over the last year or so with personnel decisions and all that stuff. It is a disaster in New York. The Jets are an absolute mess. They're an all-in team that has, 3 wins on the season, a quarterback who doesn't look like he wants to be there. I don't think the team necessarily wants him to be there. I'm not talking about the guys in the locker room. I'm talking about ownership based off that story. And they have some big-time questions. Just fired their GM. Big-time questions in New York. So, yes, at least you're not the Jets. That's for dang sure. All right, let's get back. Again, thanks for the 10 Vitalix on that super chat. After last week, I'd say this. I still saw a lot of people on Monday and some people yesterday talking about Alex Van Pelt and his future and, should the Patriots replace him? I'll tell you where I'm at. 3-4 weeks ago, I said Van Pelt has to show improvement or I'm ready to move on. I think Van Pelt has shown that improvement. I think he has shown that improvement. I thought Sunday against the Rams, that was his best work so far this season. And I think Van Pelt, he's doing a better job. He has figured out Pop Douglas's role within this offense. He's getting him the football with yards after the catch opportunities, right? He sprinkled in Marcus Jones last weekend. First play, Jones gets the football. Second play, he's used as a decoy. Play sequencing. I think AVP's play sequencing the last 2 or 3 weeks has been much better than it was the first 2 months. And I would argue this. After Sunday, AVP should be the last coach on this staff being questioned. because I just waxed poetic for 30 minutes about Drake Maye and how he's improved and how he looks and how ahead of the curve he is according to how many other people said he wouldn't be ready after 1 year or 2 years. Here he is, he's improving, and on Sunday against the Rams, he looked like a quarterback that had the answers to the questions at 22 years old. That has a lot to do with Alex Van Pelt. I'm not telling you that Alex Van Pelt can't fall back. I'm not telling you that Van Pelt's guaranteed a gig. I'm not telling you any of that. But if we're going to sit here, we're going to talk about coaches, and we're going to talk about this staff, Alex Van Pelt, to me, after Sunday, is one of the guys that I'm least worried about. And yes, that is a significant change from 3 or 4 weeks ago. And it's because I think Alex Van Pelt has been better. Let's not forget Van Pelt. He hasn't called an offense week in and week out for 15 years. And that 1 year that he did it was in Buffalo. It was thrown on his lap a week before the season kicked off, and he didn't have a ton of talent on that roster. So he's learning. And the way I read the Van Pelt stuff is, for the first 2 months of the season, he had Jacoby Brissett, a busted down offensive line. He was trying to figure out who does what at a high level, medium level, low level. He was also developing the rookie quarterback. And so when you look at everything here, I'm not telling you Van Pelt's been great, but what I'm telling you is right now I have more confidence in Van Pelt than I have in Gerard Mayo or DeMarcus Covington. Right now. So all of this talk about Van Pelt and is he going to be replaced? Why aren't we looking at Covington? Why are we not looking at Mayo? And I'm not saying that any of them need to be replaced right now. They're 11 games into their coaching careers as a unit. But if we're going to ask questions about one of the staff members, AVP is further down that list. And I really feel like there are certain people in the media that have been all over Van Pelt since day one, and they just continue killing Alex Van Pelt or questioning Alex Van Pelt when he's gotten better because they want to hold on to their takes. I criticized Van Pelt 3-4 weeks ago. I said if he didn't get better, then yes, he should be in the firing squad. No doubt about that. Or in the firing line. No doubt about that. But I give him a chance. And I said I want to see improvement. Just like I've said I want to see improvement from Mayo in Covington. I need to see improvement. And from Van Pelt, I have seen improvement. And the young quarterback is getting better. So I don't know why we're still talking about Van Pelt needs to go right now. There are bigger problems with this coaching staff. There are bigger problems with this football team than Alex Van Pelt right now. We need to stop that obsession. Maye is absolutely getting better. Do you want to mess with Van Pelt if Drake Maye continues to play better and better and better? Do you want to take the quarterback's offensive coordinator away if he's getting better and the offense is getting better throughout this season? That doesn't make any sense to me. Does it make it to you? Maybe. Disagree? Agree? Throw a comment in. Don't forget, comments help us against that algorithm. As far as those Burt Breer reports, Gerard Mayo came out and said that those reports are false. I don't know what else he's going to say. I would also ask Gerard Mayo, how does he know? If the Crafts are making phone calls or having conversations, how does Gerard Mayo know that they're happening or not happening? Does he have a weekly powwow with the Crafts and they're just going to be completely transparent with him? I don't know. But he came out and he shot pretty much everything down. Take it for what it is. Other Patriots news. Tyquan Thornton, as we know, cut by the Patriots last weekend. He ends up with the Kansas City Chiefs. I wouldn't be shocked if this worked because of the circumstances. Andy Reid, a fantastic play caller. Kansas City's offensive line allows for deeper routes to run consistently, and we know that that is one of the strengths of Tyquan Thornton from what we've heard. We didn't see much of it, but from what we've heard. And he also has Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. Let's not forget about that. So it could work, but the Patriots gave Thornton more than enough opportunity, and he never made the most of it. Whether it was due to injury or he was dropping the football, he just never made the most of his opportunities that he was given here in New England. So it was time to cut the bait. It was time to cut the cord, move on from Thornton. He ends up in Kansas City. Of course, he's probably going to catch a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl and drive all of us crazy. The bigger issue is the early wide receiver picks and why they're not working out. And this has been a problem going back like more than a decade now. I don't know. What's going on? What's wrong with the process? Now, Jalen Polk this year We ask, is Jalen Polk going to keep playing? Should he keep playing? To me, Jalen Polk looks like a guy. I still think he's a good football player. To me, he looks like a guy who still is getting in his own way mentally. I don't know what the block is. I don't know how to figure out to get him away from that blockage in his head. I don't know if it's a coach issue, a personal issue. I don't know what it is. But Jalen Polk is a better football player than we've seen. And I'm not telling you that Jalen Polk's going to be a home run. But Jalen Polk in college, in what I saw in camp, he's an NFL wide receiver. And he is not this bad. Something is going on. I don't know what it is, but he has been unable to figure it out. So how much do you continue to play him? We'll have to see. Can you get him some easy looks, so to speak, right? Like if you're a basketball team, you draw up a play to get one of your guys an easy look. I've been very surprised, as much as Van Pelt has improved over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been surprised that the Patriots haven't early in the game got the football to Polk. And I know it might sound ridiculous to some, or, oh, you're kind of, you're taking care of the young player. Yeah, you're damn right you're taking care of the young player. So if I'm Van Pelt against Miami on Sunday, one of the first calls I'm making is throwing the football to Jalen Polk. If he drops it, he drops it. But similar to the touchdown on the play action going back a couple weeks ago against Chicago, get him something easy. If you get him a couple of easy catches, maybe his confidence gets going. Maybe his focus gets going. I'm very surprised that they haven't schemed any super easy looks for him. Tunnel screen, bubble screen, quick in-breaker, whatever. I'm surprised that they haven't done that. I would scheme at least 1 or 2 easy ones to Jalen Polk on Sunday down in Miami. Try to get him going a little bit. Now, Jalen Polk, one thing that we've seen is he's playing a lot of snaps in 2 tight end sets, which tells me the Patriots coaching staff believes that he's one of their better blocking wide receivers. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are going to get lost in the sauce. They're going to look at the snap counts and say, oh, Jalen Polk played a bunch of snaps. Why did he play a bunch of snaps when he's not doing a great job or even a good job? Well, you got to think about the bigger picture. The Patriots, they have been very efficient in 2 tight end sets. It's their best personnel grouping. 2 tight end sets have been their best personnel grouping all year offensively. So when they play with 2 tight end sets, they want Polk out there, obviously. He's been playing a lot in that personnel grouping. And it's because when you go 2 tight end sets, you mostly want to run the football, or at least make it look like you're going to run the football. So if Jalen Polk is one of their best blocking wide receivers right now, he's going to get a lot of snaps. Not because he individually is doing great and catching footballs and going bananas, but because they think he is one of their best blocking wide receivers, and they want him out there doing that in that personnel grouping. Is the Jalen Polk thing coaching? I don't know. Couple of other things. Marco Wilson was waived. Goodbye, Marco. You weren't very good. Deserved to get waived. He was picked up off waivers, I think, by Cincinnati. He blew coverages. He missed tackles. He wasn't very good. It is time to give Alex Austin an opportunity at one of those cornerback spots. Wilson did not deserve to hold on to his job. So he is donezo. Speaking of cornerback, one of the concerns is that Jonathan Jones has seemingly fallen off a cliff. I don't think the Patriots can put a lot on Jonathan Jones's plate as outside cornerback 2. I don't think that they can rely on him to go man coverage. We saw the Cooper Kupp play on Sunday. Greg Bedard says that Jonathan Jones should have had inside leverage to make that catch a deep catch and a tough contested catch. Instead, he played outside leverage on a zero cover blitz, which allowed an easy peasy 1-2-3-Z throw from Stafford to Kupp for a 69-yard touchdown. So Jonathan Jones, he is falling off of a cliff. He was toasted and roasted against LA on Sunday. I don't think that he's a waste on this roster. I still think that Jonathan Jones can play well in the slot. We've also seen him play some safety over the past couple of weeks. I think you start to lean in on that, right? Lean on that stuff. Slot, safety, occasionally a snap outside corner. But the days of, you're going with Gonzalez on one side and Jonathan Jones on the other side, I think those days are over. Jones is 31 years old, I think, now. He doesn't look like the same guy physically. So I think you have to start preparing now to say, okay, Jonathan Jones is not that guy anymore. So what can we do with Jonathan Jones that gets the most out of him? And maybe Alex Austin can play some of that, some of that outside corner role. If you could have Gonzalez and Alex Austin, and Austin isn't a disaster, you can slide Marcus Jones into the slot, and then you can play Jonathan Jones at some safety along with Kyle Duggar. Duggar could be more of the in-the-box safety. Jonathan Jones could be the more get the bleep back safety. That could make some sense. So Austin comes back. Maybe he's your outside corner 2 to go with Gonzalez outside corner 1. Marcus Jones in the slot. Jonathan Jones gets moved back to safety. That would make some sense to me. It would make a lot of sense to me if that's what they did. All right, don't forget to do a few things for us. Hit that thumbs up on YouTube. Helps us an awful lot. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. What would you do with Jonathan Jones? What would you do with Jalen Polk? Don't forget to throw a comment in. Likes and comments, they help us beat that YouTube algorithm, helps us build this show more and more. So if you like what we do, make sure you do those things. And also subscribe. Click that notify bell. Trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. We're here tomorrow night for the NFL podcast, Crafts and Kickoffs. And then on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube, we're here to preview the Dolphins game on Sunday. I've already started to do some work on the Dolphins, some very interesting matchups. And I'm wondering what the Patriots' philosophies are going to be against the Dolphins on both sides of the football Sunday. So we'll get to that on Friday at 3 p.m. live. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. live, Crafts and Kickoffs. Till then, be well. I am Nick Cattles. It's the Nick Cattles Show. I appreciate every single one of you.